Good morning everyone. I'll introduce myself. I'm Nigel Higgs. I'm one of the co-founders with James Fair of Data to Value. We're a London-based consultancy specialising in data, big data, small data.
Why did we decide to put on Connected Data as a conference? I guess a lot of it stems from some of myself and Nigel's interactions in terms of setting up a consultancy together, and also some of our work as permanent employees in the past in big corporates. Nigel's background is more as a data modeler, data architect. My background has tended to be more in the business, as I like to call it at the time, the real kind of coalface of the data world, working on reference data projects and things. And we found that there were quite different kind of ends of the spectrum, but we really enjoyed kind of sharing knowledge and working out where we were solving the same problems, perhaps with different techniques or different terminology. And I think that that's something that we found as we've developed as a consultancy and we've become more mature in terms of understanding things like the big data landscape and the connected data landscape. And particularly in the connected data landscape, we've found that there's a lot of rich diversity in terms of the different groups that are out there doing things with different technologies. And we were going along to a lot of meetups and a lot of conferences and talking to people that were specialising in things like triple stores and graph databases. And we were really surprised that we were seeing the same kinds of questions coming up in different places, asked in slightly different ways, but it seemed like the two kind of groups of people, or the different groups of people, weren't necessarily really talking and sharing best practice and advice. So really that's been one of the main objectives of the conference, is bringing together diverse groups of people that have an interest in connected data. So connected data being things like linked data, semantics, graph databases, and all of the other related disciplines. So really one of the main objectives of the conference is to get you guys sharing as much of your knowledge as possible with each other, challenging each other, discussing the different pros and cons of different approaches, different technologies.
Technology skills exposed.
Thank you. First of all, I'm glad to be here. As Nigel said, my name is David Mesa. I am the Chief Knowledge Architect at NASA.
I quickly photoshopped Messi's face actually into the Panama Papers because as far as I'm aware, he's the first person that has actually been prosecuted successfully using data that was provided by the ICIJ. So an interesting milestone there, I think, for connected data.
Okay, hello, yes. My name's Chris. I'm a linked data person, I guess. I helped set up the University of Southampton Open Data Service.
So my name is Dan Murphy and I write code for the FT. So I saw there was a few other coders in the room when we started this morning. So I'm going to be talking a little about some of the practices and code that we write.
But first up is a good friend of ours, Shimon Klarman, who is going to talk to us today. Pleasure to welcome Borislav.
My background is in semantic notation, information extraction, NLP.
So Dr. Jesus Barassa, who's a consultant with Neo4j.
Hello everyone, my name is Jean Vieux. I'm one of the co-founders of Linkurious. Linkurious is a graph visualization startup.
Introduce Taya Turdey from the Semantic Web Company, the vendors of Poolpart.
Tony Burdett on now from the European Bioinformatics Institute, who will be talking about connected life sciences data approaches there.
Okay, thanks James. Thanks for inviting me to talk. So I'm going to give you a sort of little bit of a historical perspective on bioinformatics.
So I am Paul Risson. I have been working at the BBC since 2006. And I'm going to talk to you about our use of linked data and connected data at the BBC, with particular focus probably less on the technical details and more on what it's enabled us to do.
How would you recommend that we go about, any of our interested attendees or any organisation should go about building a connected data capability in their organisation? Thanks a lot for attending. I don't know, James, you got any final comments you'd like to make to add to that?
The intention is to run the event as a bigger event next year. So any feedback that people have in terms of topics or anything, we'd be really interested. And yeah, I think it's time for a beer or a glass of wine.
So thanks everyone. Thanks for all your
Well, I'm really pleased with the experience. I mean, I'm really happy, to have been invited to participate, and I think there's, definitely the need to bridge these two communities that seem to have been, separated and still are. I think, I have to say, after some of the conversations we have today. But I think it's been a great event, really interesting talks, and I hope the outcome is...
Here we are at the end of a fantastic day, Connected Data 2016. Had an action-packed day, starting with David Metzer of NASA, talking about different challenges associated with successfully launching rockets into space using graph search, semantic technologies, graph visualization approaches, other things. Before moving on to people like Dan Murphy at the Financial Times, talking about content recommendation, Paul Risson, BBC, Tony Burdett at the European Bioinformatics Institute. Really diverse range of speakers covering both the linked data, the graph and the semantics end of the spectrum. Really great to see all of these communities actively interacting, participating in the panel discussions, throwing out lots of different questions, and really actively sharing some of the secrets, and also talking about some of the challenges that they face. So overall, I think a fantastic day, and we're really looking forward to Connected Data 2017.